Chapter 14. A Rude Awakening. As Ruuna emerged from slumber's embrace, she encountered a world veiled in muted sounds. Her mind like a ship sailing in morning fog over open seas, she could feel herself being shaken as consciousness suddenly started cutting through like the sun. Now, with effort and concentration, she could just barely make out what Cecil was trying desperately to tell her.
Ruuna, wake up, please. They have them and are about to take them away.
Cecil? What's going on?
Ruuna had rubbed her eyes to see that both the shrew Brok and the mouse called River Lily had found themselves hanging from the claw of a Starling guard. They were dangling from their tails like two berries, just within the door's entrance to the cobblestone prison cell.
Leave them prisoners alone. King Starling would have your head if he found out you'd been picking at his hostages.
A haughty female Starling's voice called, a small distance outside the cage.
What's he gonna do? Let 'em rot like the rest? Who's to say he'd miss one or two of 'em? Besides, I could use some help making a good snack. These claws are less than useful for grabbing kitchenware.
Followed the irreverent tone of the Starling guard paired at the threshold.
Fine. But I'm not about to cover for thou tail feathers if he gets caught. Since you're there, why not get me a little something too? The limited rations Lord Starling allows has me leaner than a thin worm after a long drought.
If it'll keep thy beak shut, I may bring something back. But no promises!
Brok had finally summoned the courage to make his own thoughts known.
You can't just take us. Let us go.
Ha! Let you go? Not when I have perfectly good work to put thee to. I have just the job for two little creatures to handle.
He began to hobble and hop his way out of the cage door when a voice like fire stopped him in his track.
Hey! You can't just handle them like that! Let them down! You know better than that awful slag and his bandits. Do you hear me?
Fiery little one you are, with a tongue like a sword, eh? Well, I'm a large stone to your puny knife. Besides, what a little runt as you able to do about it,
I'll...
Ruuna was so charged with righteous indignation that she leaned forward onto her tiptoes, as if to push the words to follow with great force.
I'll bite your leg off and make you free us, you greedy paws. We're not just something you can take. We want our freedom. We want to go home. And you won't stop us.
Now, with hackles on her back, she stared at her enemy, fuming with exasperation. This nearly caught the Starling by surprise, as he had never seen a mouse with such righteous indignation.
You'll what?
You heard me. I'm not afraid of you. I'm tired of being cooped in a cage as a slave. We all are. We want to go home again. Please!
Ruuna's speech began to resonate with the others, including Quint. Slowly, Sam, Cecil, and even Quint now began to stand up and take their place next to Ruuna.
I'm not afraid either. There's more of us than there are of you.
Attaboy, Cecil.
Yeah, right. At least I'm not afraid to fight like he is. Me and my good tail can take on any old bird.
Eventually, more and more began to raise next to the trio, displaying the courage everyone had felt. The Starling frantically looked at the creatures, now taking a sturdy stand in defiance before him, slowly lowering his claw and the 2 mice in it. He scanned the small room with his quivering dark eyes at the gathering creatures. Brok helped River Lily scurry to safety near the rear of the young prison mates, concerned about her when she began coughing uncontrollably.
Are you all right? That cough of yours sounds rough.
Now resting against the wall, River Lily began to suppress her hacking, now clutching the sore spot on her chest tenderly. Clearing her throat, she wiped her drippy snout and began weakly speaking in a hoarse voice.
I don't know. I feel ill and very tired.
Brok helped her to rest against the back wall, out of the way of the other creatures who were now contesting for their own lives.
I'm going to join them and get our freedom.
No, wait. Stay here, please.
For a moment, Brok hesitated at the plea. Normally, he would be charged with duty to stand up, but River Lily's request held him in flux. He hesitated, wondering if what he was about to choose was right.
All right. I'll sit with you for now. I think the others might have a good grasp already.
Thank you, Brok.
Soon he was sat next to his new ailing friend, as the others stood like a wall in front of them. Star, the little mole, felt the courage in the room in defiance of the Starling god, and too voiced his thoughts aloud.
You nasty vegetable! Oh no! Run, monster!
Quiet thyselves, else this little maid gets pushed deep into the earth.
In the commotion, no one had noticed that the Starling god had snatched Ruuna's tail. She found herself hanging upside down as every creature took a step back. They all stared at their leader hanging from her tail, now in a fearful hush of what might happen next. Ruuna had to hold her long yellow tunic from flapping down and covering her head.
Hey! Let me down, you big boy!
The guard cocked his head down to look at the defiant mouse with contempt, laughing at the helplessness of her predicament.
Let you down? After the trouble thou hast caused? I think not. Thou needs to be taught a lesson. You and one other.
Now he began searching the receding tide of creatures for another to join. Soon his eye landed on Star the mole. He stood as still as a stone on a calm day, not quite aware of what was happening until it was too late. Snatch!
Now be still, the lot of you, and mayhaps my lord will treat thee to a scrap of food this eve.
With talon gripping both mouse and mole, the Starling god took his leave outside, the door of the tree-hollowed prison closing tightly behind. Cecil and Quint watched with teeth gritted, maddened at cowardly fear.
Thistles and bone! We can't even stand up for ourselves!
Quint stomped back to his corner, his paws clenched in fuming anger. Cecil watched him, not knowing what he himself could do about the matter either. Ruuna was not at all taking kindly to being bound and dragged through the kingdom. She tried gnawing at the ropes that seized her paws forward, and tried digging her footpaws in to prevent being pulled along. But her insignificant size helped not. Eventually, her footpaw caught grasp of a stone poking through the earth, and she tried with all her might to pull back against the mighty force of the tug. For a moment it seemed to have worked, but the Starling gave just a little more effort in his pull, completely overpowering Ruuna, dragging her face first into the earth.
Ow!
Stop that battalion, you big dirty beastie!
Star snarled before quickly approaching Ruuna to help her up.
Well, mayhaps the little lass would best keep her pace up and her voice quiet. That is, if she wants you both to be alive when the eve comes. Now, get up, and follow like good little babes thou ought to be.
Ruuna let out a growl as she listened to the threat. Ruuna could tell, too, that Star was not in the mood to take such malice. As she found her footing, Star had noticed something on the side of Ruuna's face, and a worried expression took over his whole being.
Red water I'm bespilling from your fur whiskers.
Red water?
Ruuna watched as a small drop of her own blood fell and splattered into the ground, leaving a deep red spot in the dirt. With widened eyes, she stared at it, instinctively bringing her paw to her soiled cheek. Immediately, she could feel the warm moistness in her paw. Bringing it back into view, she saw how it was stained the same color of crimson she witnessed drip into the dirt. Unbeknownst to her, the sight of the hue sped up her heart rate, causing an uncomfortable feeling of dread. The Starling looked at the small mouse pup, seeing the potent mixture of confusion and fear deep within her large orange-tinted eyes.
Eh? What's this? 'Tis only a puny cut. Hast thou never seen thy own blood before?
For an instant, as the small mouse slowly shook her head in dismay, the Starling felt as if he were staring at his own daughter. This mouse was as small and naive as she was. Slowly he lowered his guard, for it was as if he were staring at a long-forgotten memory. Swiftly shaking his head to focus again, he couldn't bring his gaze to the small creature any longer. Overwhelmed by tumultuous emotions, Ruuna felt her paws quiver, while Star clung to her arm with innocent curiosity, yearning for reassurance that his companion would find solace.
Master Anarchy!
She looked at his worried expression, realizing that she needed to be strong enough for the both of them. Staring at her blood-smeared paw, she clenched it close, now fighting to steady and calm herself. The Starling broke her focus with a quieter voice as he spoke, much to her surprise.
You'll be all right. The bleeding will stop and you'll heal. Now, let us go. Being out in the open isn't a bright idea for small creatures.
All of the unnerving noises that Ruuna and Star had heard seemed to affirm his warning. The air echoed with the shrill cries of starlings, akin to the heated squabbles of disgruntled warriors. Amidst the typical discord of avian disputes, the melodious chorus of crickets and the gentle rustling of foliage added an air of unease. Now, instead of futilely struggling against their bindings, the diminutive creatures chose to shadow the larger bird, their eyes fixed upon him until they arrived at a stately oak tree near the edge of the glade. Upward, Star's gaze followed the mysterious shadows of the starlings flitting between the branches, until his keen eye detected the presence of 2 ropes descending from a soaring bough high atop the ancient oak. The ropes led downward, converging upon a voluminous woven basket nestled amidst the embrace of 2 powerful gnarled roots. The basket was finely woven, its weave pattern haphazard but tight, leaving no room to let daylight penetrate. It had intricate patterns of flowers laced into the top ring, where the ropes split into 3 and attached to the rim, and it boasted ample dimensions to confine a sizable pine cone, or perhaps just 2 small creatures, Ruuna thought.
Right. Now, steady thyselves in that fine basket, and keep still. You'll be hauled up to the landing on the 2nd branch.
You expect us to go up there? In that?
Ruuna complained with an uncertain tone.
But Star's afraid of heights. Aren't you, Star?
Ruuna nudged at her mole friend, fully expecting him to agree. Struck with astonishment, Star found himself being drawn to the idea of being the tallest mole ever to live, something completely unprecedented for mole kind. As he felt himself being pulled to the basket's spacious enfold, he made aloud his thoughts in the usually broken dialect spoken by moles.
Her! This basket be making Star a tall and beastie. Must run and doesn't need to be scared. Star keep him safe.
I'm not scared. I'm just... Wait, how come you're not scared? I thought moles were afraid of tall places.
Ruuna replied, perplexed at the sudden bravery Star had shown. Ruuna, on the other hand, was less enthusiastic at the thought of hanging by a mere rope to be hauled up to heights unknown. Star had made a great smile appear on his visage as he imagined just what it would be like all the way at the very top.
Oh, must be. But nothing, Star. I dreamed a bit taller than clouds.
But what if what's up there wants to eat us? Besides, can't we just do what you want down here?
Beacon talons, quiet thy whining! It will only be a short ride up. And once we're perched, you won't even notice. Oh, and if thou want that bleeding to stop, you'll listen. There'll be someone who can take care of that cut of yours up there.
Now remembering the wound in her cheek, Ruuna brought her paw up to it, causing a sharp, burning sensation. She winced and gasped at the sudden sting of pain, and her heart now began to race when she saw the drip trail of blood on the ground. Looking at the Starling now, she noticed that he had quickly averted his gaze before speaking again.
Hop in, lass. 'Tis only a little blood. You won't die from it. But you best keep a tight paw on it. It will slow the bleeding.
Star helped Ruuna into the basket, being the first inside.
Oi! Phew. Why are you telling me this? I thought you didn't care about small creatures, the way you were treating me or my friends back there.
Oh, I don't. But I still need your help to make a good snack. And mayhaps you'll get something for thyself also. You look quite small for a girl your age.
Oi! How would you know that?
Just then, Ruuna's belly made a gurgling noise loud enough for the whole Starling forest to hear. She blushed, sliding to a sit at the bottom corner of the basket as she held her cheek and belly. Star laughed at the funny noise, knowing all too well what it meant.
Her! That would sound like Runner's hungry too.
The Starling cocked his head to one side, almost able to form the bird equivalent of a smile, before unfurling his large, powerful wings to fly. With two great flaps, his form floated up and forward as quick as a stone out of a sling. He spiraled up the tree, climbing ever higher before letting out a shriek that signaled the prompt ascent of the woven basket. It tilted more upright as the rope went taut, bumping and jostling about until a powerful tug left them ascending into the air. With the creaking sound of strained fibers from the trusted cords, the basket took to the air and the two creatures in it. Ruuna couldn't help but feel an ever-growing sense of doom grip her as she felt every sway and hitch of the soaring trio. What didn't help was each little jostle caused by Star's stimulated temperament as he shuffled to and fro.
Could you keep still, please, Star? All this bouncing will make me ill.
But Star's keen eyes were too enamored by this new perspective to hear any of Ruuna's pleas.
Star be the tallest of even the big badger. Won't Mazarana see me?
Now beginning to feel an odd mixture of nauseous hunger, Ruuna buried her head in her lap as she waited hopelessly for the ride to end. Star turned to look at her ailing state, and a sense of somber sympathy began to overtake him. He paused his gaze at the outside world, slipping down to meet Ruuna at the bottom of the basket. She lifted her gaze a moment to peer at Star's concerned features, a sense of warmth conveyed by his serene expression. To reassure him, Ruuna put a paw on his large digging claw. She looked up, watching as their destination started to unveil itself through the mists of the cloud that had obstructed its view before.
Not much further now.
Looking down again, she saw Star's wondrous expression, stunned at the mystical view above him. She could tell that he was exceptionally excited, even if she herself wasn't able to fully appreciate it. The basket broke through the almost invisible layer of cloud past the first branch as it finally began to slow. Star again climbed to the rim and peered out to see distant layers of tree limbs and perched starlings, some darting from one branch to another. Looking down, he could just barely make out the gnarled roots at the base of the tree through the misty zephyrs, almost disappointed at the sight. Sliding down to Ruuna's level again, he gave way to his spoken thoughts.
What the clouds make ground hard to seem below.
Ruuna looked at her saddened companion, now observing the disappointment in his posture.
Cheer up, Star. We'll have to come this way again soon. You'll see it next time, I'm sure.
Soon the basket ride came to a slowing halt, bumping and jerking to its final resting spot in the crevasse of a branch that split into two. Star watched as a plank was slid under the rim, acting as a third support, firmly holding it fast. Now he brought his gaze to see the starling that had fastened the plank, quickly scurrying back down by instinct. The starling receded and took to a new post after the delayed cry of the familiar-sounding starling flew past. Both mouse and mole slowly peeked up past the rim to see what was happening.
See, not much to cry about now, is there? Come now, watch thou step. Thee shall be safe on such a large, firm bough, no?
The starling father said, as he gracefully landed on the old oak limb, bringing a slight gust with him. Star took the lead, less than gracefully climbing up and over the rim, landing with Ruuna grasping his large digging claw onto the worn wooden surface. Soon, too, she began to climb out, landing at Star's side in an unsteady nature. She leaned on the small mole, yearning to gain a firm footing in her dizzied state. Watching this, the starling made a remark to set their focus.
Right. Follow my standings. Keep thy eyes locked upward and focused on that thicket hut on the side of the tree, as that's where we're off to. Come on, one talent, paw after the other.
Ruuna dared not look down, instead following the lead of Star, as she kept her right paw on his shoulder and her left paw pressed to her soiled cheek.